Hey Tabitha, Coach Scott here. We have you coming in here around this corner. We'll get a little bit of anterior view and then we'll jump into a lateral view as you kind of progress. I'm going to throw this in the slow motion as you come into the frame. One of the things I'm looking for in this anterior view is I'm looking for just some bilateral symmetry. So if I draw a plumb line straight down, bisecting you into a a right half and a left half down the mid sagittal line, I'm looking for things on the right to stay on the right, things on left to stay on the left, and then one particular that I look at is arm swing. So I want to see if you're crossing center line here. So we zoom in, and we don't necessarily see any center line crossing. Kind of hard to see if there's any crossover gait. Maybe a little bit here. We may get a little crossover gait. But I think it's more the overstriding that we're going to see. So one of the other things that I peek at in the anterior view is I look to see if I can see the sole of your foot, which I can here. I can see that bottom portion of your foot in that circle there. I'm going to zoom back out. Kind of got you out of the frame there. And we're going to bring you back in here, and we're going to let this transition over into the lateral view. Okay, so now I got you here right nice on the side here. So now I'm going to draw this line down your center of mass. And one of the things that I look for is we can see that we are significantly heel striking. We would like to promote a mid-foot, forefoot strike. And we are overstriding. So I'm going to put this line back here one more time. So what we want to do is we want to shorten our stride length. We want to bring this foot back no more than 6 inches in front of our center of mass. So we're going to decrease our stride length and we're going to increase our stride rate. Our goal stride rate is 90 steps per minute. And that's one side, so that's 180 total. That would be our target range. We see a lot of age group athletes somewhere in the vicinity between 84 and 87 is where I see a good average number of people, and often I am trying to bring that up significantly up into that 90 steps per minute range. Easy way to do that. Obviously, you can put a data field. You can check your cadence on your watch, but we're doing some long runs. One of the things to do is simply count foot strikes. So if you take a couple minutes and take 20 seconds. All right, so take 20 seconds and you're going to count right foot strikes. We should get 30, or our goal or our target is to get 30 right foot strikes in the 20 seconds. That would mean that we're at a cadence of 90 steps per minute, and that's a good spot check. So as you start getting kind of bored during a long run, that's something that you can throw in there, and that's going to bring focus into the cadence. Okay. So one thing that why do we want to do this? Why do we want to decrease our stride length, increase our stride rate? And we're going to get a ton more efficiency from this. All right, so what I'm going to show you is you're getting a ton of vertical oscillation here. So if I draw this line, and you're going to be moving through this a little bit, so it's not completely fair, but you will see what I'm talking about. Here we get that bounce up towards that line and then back down, up and down, up and down, up and down. Your hair kind of tells the story here. We can see it bouncing. We get that up and down, up and down, up and down. And what we want to do is we want to, instead of spending that energy going up and going down, we want to get that energy going down and straight ahead and take up that free speed that gravity gives us. So what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you bring your eyes down to no more than 10 yards or 30 feet in front of you. Where the head goes, where the eyes go, the head will follow. Where the head goes, the body will follow. So what you should do is we should promote some forward lean, and this should be forward lean from the ankles. What I don't want you to happen is I say forward lean, I don't want you bending over, and completely bending over just at the waist. So I want you to think forward lean from the ankles. And we're going to promote this. It's almost like you're falling forward and just catching yourself in a normal running gait. And if this is hard for you to get a good proprioception or kinesthetic awareness of that, what we can do is I like to make a harness And then we get a tire and we do some tire drag workouts, and this really helps promote that forward lean from the chest. We get a chest harness and we set that up that way. So, but just being cognizant of it to start is something to work on initially. The next thing that I want to talk about is I want to talk about our arm carriage a little bit. So currently right here we're sitting, we'll call that about 90 degrees. What I want is I want a very acute angle. I want less than 90 degrees. I want you to keep your hand up by your axilla, which is your armpit. And I'd like you to keep it there consistently. Because what you're going to see is you're going to see this hand drop down. And I call it, it's if I was teaching sprint mechanics to a basketball player or a soccer player, so any field or ball sport athlete, it's exactly the positioning that I would be teaching. I'd be saying eye to hip pocket, or another one I use with the little kids, like you're picking your pocket, picking your nose. And that's a good cue for them to get a big arm action. For my endurance athletes, I want to quiet this down. So I want you to be kind of almost right where our hand is here. What I want you to do is keep that acute angle. Okay, so keep that acute angle. I'm going to bring that up even just a touch more. And what we're going to do is we're going to let our elbows get heavy. So let your elbows get heavy, and then we're just going to tick-tock back and forth, very light arm action, like the pendulum on a clock. All right, so we're going to let our elbows get heavy, let our shoulders relax, and then just tick-tock back and forth. Another visual is... pretend that I had strings on your elbows and you were a marionette and I was behind you just quickly and lightly pulling your elbows back. So it's a nice light elbow driven arm action. We don't want that big arm swing. We're going to quiet down our arms some. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring this back here. I'm going to let you see this in slow motion, kind of in half speed, so you can see some of that vertical oscillation that I'm talking about and that heel striking in slow motion. So as we enter this posterior view, you are just about to enter left foot mid stance. Mid stance is where that foot initially comes in contact with the ground, and what we're seeing some contralateral hip drop. So if I was to draw a line across, there's these two dimples on the small of your back called your posterior superior iliac spine. Those should remain neutral, and what we see is as you enter and continue through right foot mid stance, we see this hip drop, and we see that hip drop down into this position, and we see this knee move towards the midline, and we call that adduction. So it moves towards that midline. And this is a classic sign that we have some gluteus medius weakness, or an area that we can improve. So our gluteus medius is in charge when we're in mid-foot stance, and it prevents this hip from dropping down on the contralateral side or the opposite side. So it keeps our pelvis stable. When we start seeing this, we call it a Trendelenburg's gait. And we get that contralateral hip drop. You may notice if you do like a muddy trail run, you may get some mud buildup, or you may, if you're wearing like tights or yoga pants, you may get some mud buildup right there on the inside of your shin, and that would be a classic telltale sign. Kind of sometimes if you kind of click your heels, and what's happening is we're getting that adduction, and those thighs are getting pretty close together because of this contralateral hip drop. Another little signal to me is when I see this elbow kind of flare out versus staying close to the body. When I see that elbow flare out, usually what that's telling me is that we're acting like a counterbalance. Kind of like when you slip on ice and you throw your hands out to the side. That elbow is subconsciously going what we call abduction, or moving away from the midline, and that's to counteract this force. And we see that elbow start to drift out and creep out. So that's just another signal that we probably have a little contralateral hip drop. And through some of the strength work, we're going to be able to target this gluteus medius and strengthen that up. All right. So this is your, this is a quick view of your gait analysis. So we're going to hit some of these big macro level things first, and then we'll go back through and we can definitely dive into some more nuance, but I want to see if we can clean up some of this big stuff first. So I'm very excited to see this. We're going to be able to clean up that heel strike, and I think it's always neat when we get this objective feedback, and my clients get to see this. They don't believe that they were actually doing that, and we can clean this up and make some pretty drastic changes pretty quickly. All right.